tab, then this thing should remove. It didn't, so there's something wrong. Well, doesn't matter. And then I can add another NPC. As I add Donald, and we get another. And I can add tags for Donald, and then I can show. Go to Heidi, go to Donald, I switch canvases. Essentially simple, but you know, as these things go, it's not a matter of being complicated, it's a matter of being complex. It's not one hard thing, it's many, many small things that are easy by themselves, but putting them all together is where the issue lies. Okay. Everyone with me so far? Let's do some very basic taking. So that's more advanced stuff. I created a little file for us here just to test something out. At this point, yeah, it's full. Right, because it's the view me thing. Does anybody know of an option that is fast that we can switch to so that more people can join? Because I don't think so, because we tested things. The problem with Google Plus is that it takes your real name and displays it for everyone, and not everybody likes that. And it's not as fast and responsive. Join Me, we tested a bunch of options like Twitch and YouTube, and they were all slower than Join Me. So that's why we kind of did it like this. So I'm just going to keep going like this, and then I can redo this tutorial next week or something, and then more people can come. And I'm sure that's how people will get bored soon. So. This is stuff we should have tested before we did. So I have no idea that we would get 10 people, but again, it's probably just initially, and then people get bored of my voice, and then we'll drop again. So let's talk about Tkinter. Any questions so far? Any questions or comments about the things that I've talked about? No. Okay. It's perfectly okay to type. We have a text chat. I much prefer that you talk, because then I don't have to switch back and forth, and you can see what I'm doing. So you can suddenly, you're not looking at code, you're looking at the things. So, and it's also kind of lonely to kind of. I don't know if you're even listening. And that would be okay if I was a professor and get paid for it, but I'm not. So anyway, Tkinter. So Tkinter is really a GUI that every Python person should know. It's the perfect use for just if you need a couple of buttons and a couple in a window just to run that app you made. And it also has some more advanced functions, like you saw. I showed you with the canvas on the lines and stuff. Simple stuff like that you can actually get done pretty well, and it's solid, right? So how does Tkinter work? Well, it works easily, but there's a couple of traps that I think a lot of people have hit, and I certainly did when I started working with it. So in essence, Tkinter is a widget-based framework. That means that everything has to be a widget, and every widget needs a widget to go into. Right, so you can't have a widget on its own. Widget has to be has to go into another widget. And when I say go into, I mean there's a parent-child relationship. So what gets to be the top widget? Let's do that. So first we'll import, and I'll do the import line that you're not supposed to use, which is import all, the star up there. When we're just doing a testing and I'm just showing you, this is fine. Usually you can you can look at my other project. Here I import specifically. I don't import. But for now, this is fine. Right. This is Python 3, and you can tell it's Python 3 because this T is small. This is Python 2. So if you see an import line with a capitalized T, that's Python 2. In 3, they change it to decapital. Because Guido is Dutch.
Question about the import function. I know that I think in Python 2, you're allowed to say like, for example, import Tkinter. Is that also true in Python 3?
Yes. But Tkinter is a module that contains a crap load of classes. There's frame, there's text, there's buttons, there's labels, there's scroll bars, there's canvas. So if we just import Tkinter, we would have to do this. Every time we wanted something, we would have to type Tkinter dot and then whatever else we needed every time we wanted it. That's a lot of typing, so this makes it easier and better. Okay. So what is the top widget? Right, the top widget is root always. So this is a convention that you will have in every Tkinter app.
Yo, Exo, any reason why you're using Tkinter as opposed to building an API and hooking it up with something like, say, Electron?
This is with Tkinter. If you have an application that you just made yourself and it has an API and it works, and you think, I want to put a GUI on this application and I have 10 minutes to do it, that's what Tkinter is for. It's minimalist and it's fast. That's why that is the situation where I would pick Tkinter as opposed to something more advanced.
Oh, I usually just do import Tkinter as TK.
Yeah, I know. I do that as well. And there's a couple of other versions that I do also. But for this test, I'm going to import all just because it's easier.
Oh, so, are you running a unit test? Is that what you're doing?
No. This is a test file that I've made just for this tutorial.
Okay.
I already explained the thing about the import. You came in late, I think.
Yeah, your namespace might be flooded.
Yeah. I'm sure we now have only 9 people in channel, so it's open. One slide is open now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is always going to be the thing you need. Root equal TK, that's your top widget, and root main loop runs it. And everything else goes between those two statements. So if I run this, I get that, the basic Tkinter. So adding stuff from here is really, really simple. Let's add a label, a text, and we'll add a button later on. But we need to put a window around it, and a window is called a frame. So check this. So this is the general workflow of building a Tkinter app. Everything is a widget. So you take the frame widget and you make it a child of the root. You take the label widget and you make it a child of the frame widget. And you take the text widget and you also make it a child of the frame widget, because that's what frames are for, to put other widgets inside. And those are the names. Those are all classes, obviously, and that runs. And if I run this, nothing happens.
Well, you made a window.
Yeah, I made a window, but we just made that window before. Okay. And the reason why it didn't happen is because this is one of the first complications that you encounter when you start with Tkinter, and that is that you need a package manager. And in TK, there's 3 of them. There is pack, which we're going to use, which everyone uses, and then there is grid, and then there is place. Which no one uses, except for grid sometimes. So grid, you make a grid and you assign everything to a column or a span of columns. Place allows you to place things directly. The problem with those 2, package manager, is that they're ornery. And when something goes wrong, it's very hard to fix. Pack is a manager that just tries to do it for you. So it's the easiest one to use. And it's we can just do this. Done. We got our label. We have a text field, and it just works.
Yo, where are you generating
like that?
Where are you generating the TK label?
You can tell the label is there because there's a gray area right here. That's
I
the way.
know, but how is the TK, the actual text, generated?
Well, I'll get to that now. It's very, very simple. So a label needs a piece of text, so we just add it upon creation, like so.
Oh, I see. So there's a default text of TK.
Yep, very, very simple, and there it is.
Oh.
So let's add a button.
Is it possible to have like multiple windows?
Yes.
And is it possible to communicate between windows?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's make it an OK button.
What does that pack method do?
It's a package manager.
I'm gonna talk about the pack manager at length. Don't worry about that. That's understanding pack manager is really what understanding Tkinter is all about, because that's where your issues are. So I've created a use case here that is very, very simple. This is my label. We have a text field in the middle, and then we have an OK button that does nothing. So let's deal with the button first, and I promise you we'll talk a lot about pack. So if we want the button to do something, we simply add a command. So quit, I believe, yes. Quit is a built-in command that quits the program. Not much more exciting than that. Why don't we add a cancel button that does that for us? And remembering to add the pack at the end. So that, yeah, I made a mistake here, didn't I? See my imperfect code. So now we have an OK button and a cancel button, and it kind of do the same thing. Also, they don't look very good because they're all on top of each other. Let's deal with the OK button first. So that function should be pretty straightforward, right? It's an OK function. I simply put it in here. Okay, so that looks a little bit weird. Let's do this. There, explicit is better. So the OK function is triggered by the OK button, and it prints OK. I put it in as a callable variable. So I do not do this. Listen, I don't do that unless somehow that function produces another callable, which is possible. But what I want is just the straight dope there, like that. Clicking the button, okay. Simple, straight, no problem. So let's deal with this placement issue. Now we're getting into pack. So the way we've done everything now is that we've created a frame around everything, but you can't see the frame. It's not visible in any way. The frame links from root, and root is another frame. So we have a frame inside a frame, but they cancel each other out. All you see is the window. Then we have a label, which is, as you can see, because of the text, and the label is inside our frame. Then you have a piece of text also inside our frame, and both buttons are also inside our frame. And the frame is filling them in a downward manner. So you notice that everything here starts at the top and then goes down like that. So now let's fix it. So I want to put the cancel button to the side. That means putting it above the OK button. And I'm going to add a an argument to pack called fill.
Yo, Exo, so Quartz is asking you, how do you position the buttons? Is it by default?
Well, pay attention now, because we're going to position them now. So by default, they're positioned in the center and down, because that's the rules of our frame. So I've added 2 fill arguments to the pack, and I've told them fill it to the right. So what happens now is that he gets to the cancel button, and the cancel button says move to the right. And then he gets to the OK button, and that one also says move to the right, but the cancel button is there first. So what happens? Right, sorry. It's not fill, it's side. Fill comes later. Right side. So now they both take the side in the order of creation. So first the label was created and it wasn't given a side, so it was placed by default in the middle at the top. On the text field, same thing, but then the buttons were created and they were packed with a side argument. The cancel went first and the OK went. Still doesn't look very good. Let's fix it a little. We can add some simple padding. That's simple stuff, super simple stuff. We say we pad X by 5 pixels, and we're padding on both sides of the button. Pad X and pad Y, same thing. Above and below the button, we add 5 pixels of space. I don't have to do that with the OK, because the 5 pixels are added to both sides. So now it looks like this, which looks a little bit better. Let's do something a little bit more advanced. Let's add a second text field.
Yo, Exo, can you change colors as well?
No, you need a canvas for that.
Okay. So you can't have like a blue button and a red button?
No, you cannot. There are some styles for buttons that you can use, that you can change up, but it's literally like 4 different options. You cannot change colors, you cannot. I'm not sure it's even possible to put in an image file for the button, but that might be possible though. So here we have 2 text fields. Let's see what happens now. So the text fields are on top of each other, so that's no good. We want them next to each other. So let's try that. So we did it with the buttons, so let's just do it with the text fields. Side, right, side, right. Okay, that worked, but now our buttons are on the left. That doesn't make any sense. And this is the part where people start to tug at their hair, because this is a thing that has to be understood when it comes to how Tkinter works. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to frame things differently. So we're going to create a frame for, I think we're going to leave the label in the top frame, but we're going to create a text in its own. So that's a frame in frame. And we're going to add a fill command that says X. So this frame will attempt to fill things along the X axis, not the Y axis, which is the default.
Yo, so what's the beeping? What's with the beeping?
I don't have any beeping here.
Oh, I keep hearing people beeping.
Oh, that must be Discord messages, and I have them turned off because of the podcast.
Oh, weird.
What an opportunity for Control D. So now I've changed the frames where the text go, and they're in there. So let's see what happens. Okay, absolutely nothing. So let's create a button frame.
So essentially, you're trying to wrap every component in its own frame.
Yep.
Okay. And I assume there's no limit to the number of frames you can do.
limited only by your imagination.
Okay, that's always good.
So I've created another frame for the buttons, and both frames I place in the top frame, so they're not dependent upon each other. They should be now individual frames, completely removed from each other. And I'm going to fill this frame like this in the forget what it's called. Is it lower? Bottom. That's one. In the bottom side. So I've added side bottom to this frame. And then I'm going to just...
Yo, does Tkinter also do alerts?
Not sure. No, you have to do your own.
Oh.
It does pop-ups. You can make pop-up windows. So let's try that again. We now have the buttons in their own frame. We have the text in its own frame. The button frame has side bottom, and the text frame is rendered first, so it should be above. And that didn't work. So why didn't that work? So this is the part where people don't understand Tkinter, and it takes a while to kind of get this. So I'm going to draw it out. So here's what's going on.
That's so artistic. That line.
This is our frame, right? Right. I hold down the middle button to talk, so I keep drawing with it. Here's our frame, and Tkinter starts at the top, and then the frames are then taking the same space as the original frame. So this is the top frame. Then we add our label, and then the text frame comes in, and the text frame takes the whole frame. And then I say, I want side right for the first text frame. So what happens then is that Tkinter says, okay, here you go. Here's the entire right side for your text frame. And the rest of the app is now only happening over, right? So then the second one comes in and it goes, yeah, I also want to be side right. And Tkinter says, fine. Here you go. And then the buttons come in and the button frame says, listen, I want lower. And Tkinter says, fine. Here's the frame, and you get lower. And then the buttons come in, and the buttons say, no, I want side right. And Tkinter says, that's fine. And here's the cancel. So it's a winner take all. No, it's a first come, first served basis on how side works. So let's redo a little bit. So you notice that I've been packing right as I'm making every frame and every piece of text. That's not usually how you do it. You usually tend to pack at a later time because the order of packing is so important. So let's see what we need to do here. Right. So here we're going to do this. We'll simply remove the packing of the texts and do it again down here. Forgot I copied that. Because it's order of operations. So let's see what happens now. And then we get OK cancel. Why is that? Because we are packing like this. Let's remove this. Now we get it up top, even though it says side bottom. You just cheat a little bit. But this is kind of the thing that you end up with when it comes to Tkinter almost endlessly. Yeah, hold on. If I do side top, let me try. There's one thing that I'm forgetting. Hopefully you saw the button. Nagra? Yeah, I'm reading messages now. The button works like, I already said this before. I add a button, I add a command, and in the command, put the name of a function. And the function is up here, and then it just runs the function. Very simple. There's some tricks I can do with a lambda if you want to add commands to it. This is annoying. Hold on. This should be. This is annoying. I should have. This is why I do this first, and I'll record it later. But. Because now it's taking it first, and then this one comes after. All right, whatever. This is one of the pitfalls that you can fall into when you work with Tkinter. There is a solution to this, and I'll have to think about it. But until that time, let's do something more fun. Just for learning, because there's no point in me kind of wasting your time trying to error code that. There's something with side and anchor, I think. Let's make a browser. It's an easy thing to do. And now we'll utilize classes. So what I'm going to do now is move this to a line that's common in Python. Like that. And then if we want to make a little browser, let's make a class. Not too fun of this. Move that. So when we're using classes in Tkinter, we want to pass in whatever thing we are making a class of into the inheritance of the class. So the main is going to be a frame. So we simply pass frame like that.
Your audio's being spotty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Twitch had a pretty bad stream delay for us. Is my audio still spotty?
It works now, but before it was like not really working at times.
Right, that's fair enough. No, just let me know if I start falling out again. I talk fast, so if it's spotty, you won't get anything. All right, so this is a more advanced way of using Tkinter. Instead of putting everything in kind of an imperative style just down the line, we want to use classes because that's how we can pass stuff around and all that. And the classes inherits from the widget that we're using. When you're looking around for information about Tkinter, you want to go to this site, to FBot, and here they have a list of all the widgets to be used. And the top level widget is the one if you want a pop-up window. Then you have the canvas widget is very important, and the rest they kind of speak for themselves. So let's see here. Don't need any arguments there. No, we do actually. Parent. We always need parent when we make a class. And if there's no parent, then it's root. So it follows the same mechanic. We just added it to the class function, to OP. And then there's one more thing we have to do, and that is initialize the parent. Sorry, the class that it's inheriting from. Like this. So we send the parent into the parent class. There are two kinds of parents here. There's the parent that comes in here that's sometimes called master. Let's change that. So the parent in inheritance here is frame. Main is inheriting from frame. And then we initialize frame and we send in the master class, which in this case is root, which is the class that which is the widget that this class belongs to. So it works the same way as it did when we were working in imperative style, in object-oriented style. It just becomes a bit more obvious in the conventions. So we add the parent to the instance variable there. And we're going to have to import a few more things if you want to make a browser. Very simple browser, but still. So I'm importing requests, which is a Python module that allows me to to get HTTP pages. And I'm importing Beautiful Soup, which is a Python module that allows me to parse through those pages in a meaningful way. And also importing read because we might need regex to read to make complex readings of strings. I'm not going to talk too much about that, and the code that I apply with them are going to be mostly boilerplate code. So let's talk about the important part here, which is the top frame. Goes like that. Right, parent not defined because I renamed it master. And nobody caught it. Is anybody paying attention? Right, we get our basic. We're going to need a couple of frames. We're going to need 3 frames. We want the top frame, then we want an Earl frame, and then we want our bottom frame. So let's just make that right away. Right, so the Earl frame is part of the top frame, and the bottom frame gets its own thing. Obviously, nothing's going to happen if we do this because frames don't do a whole hell of a lot, and we haven't packed it. But here's the thing: we're not going to pack anything because we are, but we can't do it here. When you're working like this, if I do this. Obviously, those are still just frames, so I get nothing. But check this. Look at that, none. And the reason for that is that right now we end up running whatever comes out of pack. But pack doesn't return anything. So these all become empty and we can't use them. So we simply cannot pack in line like we did before. We have to do it in its own kind of pack section. So let's make a little separation like that. I like to do stuff like that with comments. But we're going to need a few more widgets. Earl is going to need a label, an entry, and a widget, I believe. A button widget. Let's do that. I'm going to go back. Are there any questions? No? Good. All right. So we've created a label, we've added a text to it, and we've put an anchor on the label that makes sure it ends up in the north side of its own frame, which is the Earl frame. And I want to say something about what I'm doing. If you look at other Tkinter code, you might see this. And that works too, right? So this is a Tkinter object that represents north, and it can be NSEW, right? Northeast, southwest, and a lot of other arguments work like that. They are capitalized objects, not pieces of text. And where do they come from? Up here. Since I'm importing all. But if you're not importing all, you have to import those objects individually. You have to import and that's stupid because it makes it ugly that you import one. So the alternative is to use strings, but then you always use lowercase, like that. So I find that better. So is do that. But when you're looking at other tutorials, you're going to see the other convention very often. Doesn't matter. Let's add an entry. All right, so we're added an entry frame. An entry is where you enter a piece of information. And we made the width 80 because we want it to be nice and wide. This is our URL bar. This is where you type in. This is where you type in.
Yeah, so I'm back.
And finally, we need a button.
So are you actually building the GUI now?
Yep.
All right.
I got stuck with something that I was hoped I was going to be able to do, but I hadn't looked at it in a while. So, But that's how it goes sometimes. All right, so there's our go button. Let's take a look at it. No, we haven't found anything.
You know, what is master in the init method?
So you can sometimes put parent there, and some people I put parent, but the way that classes work is that this class is a widget. It has to be a widget. Like Tkinter, everything has to be a widget. So this class inherits from the frame widget up here. So in some parlance, the frame widget is the parent of main, right? This is the parent class, the main is the child class. But it also takes the parent class that the widget belongs to, because the frame doesn't belong to frame, it belongs to root, which is down here. It takes in root, and that's also the parent. But that becomes confusing. So sometimes you can rename it to master because that's also true. So the master is the widget that it belongs to. In this case, is root, the root application.
Okay.
And for other widgets, it'll be this widget most likely. Let's pack some widgets.
Also, why not use super?
Perfectly fine. But most conventions, I see it done like this, even for Python 3. So.
Oh, that's kind of strange.
I think a lot of the tutorials are old.
Yeah, because super is definitely the way to go if you're doing inheritance. Even though super technically should be called next and not super as in like inherit super.
All right, so I created I'm packing our top frame to the top side. It's got a padding of 15 on each. Let's see what this looks like as soon as I pack the URL frame as well. So here I'm using the anchor tag to pack it to not so some people get confused with the difference between side and anchor. So side means take the side of the parent, but anchor means move it to this side or center of where you already are, right? If that makes any sense.
So it's essentially dividing intersections, and the anchor is a coordinate within that section.
Yeah. I'm centering a frame here, so that can get a bit confusing. But I'm going to put all this up on GitHub, and the best way is just to play with it, really.
All right.
I think that's it. This is not good. Right, we have an entry and we have a button we have to do as well. So let's pack it.
Is this just a pure Tkinter tutorial, or are you using this for an application?
No, this is not gonna. This is just a tutorial. I'm making a browser that's gonna be very, very simple.
Okay, that's cool too. So you're probably gonna use. Oh, I see. You are using requests. Okay.
Yep.
How are you rendering the images?
No images. We'll start with just text and see where we can go from there, because we can put in images. But again, scope is important.
Of course, because otherwise we'll be here for hours.
Yep. So we're going to put this one on the left side. We're going to do a fill X. And we're going to do something called expand equal true. That last command, you're going to see what it means is that if the user maximizes the window, keep expanding to the new maximization, essentially.
Wait, how is that triggered?
So whenever you open I can show you, let's take a look at what we have. So,
all right.
Non-type estimate bit pack. So where do we get non-type? Did I pack anything?
You didn't. So top frame's the problem.
Yeah, I packed it.
Frame.
Yeah, I talked about this before. I think I added pack here as an example. That doesn't work because it becomes a non-type option.
So now if you run it, it should be, yeah.
Yeah, no, we so far we've only packed, well, the entry should be there. Let's take a look again. No entry, that's because no, should be. Let's pack everything. Let's see what happens.
But you haven't called the pack method yet, have you? Oh,
not for everything, but I have to add the label.
Oh, I see.
And we're going to add the button. I love it when nothing happens. So the problem is down here. Everything has to be packed.
Oh, your app has to be packed as well?
Yep.
Oh. That's kind of redundant, no?
Remember, it's a widget. Everything is a widget. So I've packed it. I've done fill both and expand true so that it will keep filling both sides and expanding with the expansion of the app.
Okay.
Look at that. So that's kind of what we have so far. We got an URL, we got a button, we got a field. If I expand, it expands, but this is locked to 80 as a width. So
yeah, URL's fixed.
Yep. Let's see. I think that go button was a bit close.
Can you make the button round?
No.
No, just squares.
Nope, cannot make it round. I can make it look better, but I can't make it round.
Oh.
I want to have a little bit of padding with that button there.
I'm just thinking like on the, like if you're trying to scale up on this, like let's say you're trying to make a browser, wouldn't you want to have like a settings.py to basically unpack all your settings onto all these self.objects or attributes?
No, because the problem, and this is the problem with Tkinter, is that the pack order matters. So I have to pack top frame first. I have to pack URL frame next. So there's no other place to put it than in the init.
No. I mean, you know where you're having like line 15, for example, text
Yep.
equals URL
Yep.
colon anchor. Like you can have all that in a separate config file that just unpacks it here.
Yeah. No, totally. I could do that, absolutely. Run it with attributes. But that's for another day. So we're gonna need a text field, and we're gonna need quite a text field. So let's do that.
Also, does Tkinter do kind of like that bootstrap stuff where it's responsive to the window or to the device? Like, let's say you want to run your browser app on like a phone. Like, is it possible to have that responsiveness?
So Tkinter uses the TCL-C framework that allows you to make GUI for OSs. Not really something you can. It's not. There's no way to put Tkinter on an app or on the web.
I see.
So the way that it works, like most OS GUIs, is that it uses the OS's frames and buttons, right? Because it's not really making its own here. It's telling the OS to make a frame, to make a button.
I see.
So if you had like their modern phones that are coming now, Ubuntu phone, and there's the KDE thing for KDE, where you'll get essentially Linux on your phone. Yeah, then it would look like that. The OS is handling. So that's why you would use, like, for games. I could use Pygame to make all my application. But then I would have to set the size of every rectangle myself, and I could say, okay, if the user's screen is 1024x960, then you set 1/8 of that, and I could go by increments like that. And if his screen is 1920x1248 whatever, then I set. But I have to do it myself for and all the positioning and everything. That's great for games, and that's what you want. But this is easier because it does something that just tells the OS what to do. So I don't have to think about different sizes, different operating systems, different effects that it would have. I just do it, and the OS does it for me. That's the reason why you'd want to do this for a tool that's for a game.
I see. So this is more abstracted.
Oh yeah,
that's really nice.
So hold on, we have to pack this text field.
Wait, why .config?
Yeah, we're gonna add some configs to that text field, but first we're gonna pack.
Oh. Was that Cajun?
Right, so this becomes a bunch of commands, okay? So remember that fill relies on which direction you want to fill. The side that we already talked about, it takes over a side of the original. If that section has not been claimed already, it will claim the section for us. And expand true, as I said, it will expand with the expansion of the application. Please ask if there's anything, and if you don't have, why on earth? And if you don't have a microphone, just ask in text, and C-Card can read it.
Yeah, I'm just chilling in the stream. Feel free to speak your mind and just shout out questions. That beeping is going to get to me, man. I swear. It's just like, do-do.
Yeah. I heard it now through you.
Yeah, that thing's been driving me crazy.
Just turn it off, dude.
I don't know how. Like, if I knew, I wouldn't be complaining.
So finally, we're going to config. Before we do that, let me show you. This is what it looks like. pretty good.
On the upper left, where you have the feather and the DK, is it possible to change that?
No, because that comes from Windows, but it is possible to change what it says.
Okay.
Let's do that, actually.
I want to make it like browser or
yeah,
browser.
something like that.
Yeah, something.
So so we have the URL. Type the URL here, and then click the go button. Right now, nothing happens. And then we have this text field, and you can also type into this text field. We don't want that. We don't want you to type in there. We want to display text, not be able to type into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to disable the text field, and that's what the config is. It's very simple.
Is the URL entry, that box, is it going to get hooked up to requests to do the GET request or POST request or whatever it is it's supposed to do?
Yep.
Oh, sweet. Oh, yeah, states. I didn't know that. You just gave me an idea.
Right. So, very simple. Every one of these widgets has a config option, with a bunch of options, and they're all displayed on the FBOT side. And for text fields, the thing you need to know is insert, which allows you to insert text, any string, and state, which will then disable it, and also get, which allows you to get text. And we'll look at that a little bit later. But for right now, this works. We have a little bit of padding, and yeah, it looks exactly like the saddest, most minimalist browser anybody could ever.
I think you beat Netscape, though.
Yeah, I beat Netscape here.
If they're still around.
Let's add that go button. So as I explained earlier, buttons, very simple. You just add command like that, and you have to spell it correctly. And we make it something obvious, remembering our commas. And we make it something obvious like self.go button. So that's a method. And again, we don't add the parentheses. We're sending the callable in. It will run it for us. So let's do that. Let's make that method.
Yo, Axel, how does Tkinter handle on-click events?
Very well. It's actually also really easy. That's a good point. We should do an example of an on-click event as well. I can actually show you in the other. When we're done with this, I'm going to go back to the other file that I'm making with the other widgets, because that one is filled with on-click events for dragging, for placing. You can drag. You can have middle mouse button, right, left mouse button, anything you want.
You can even like have on-click enable drag state.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
No, you have to make it yourself. Oh. It has to be on click. You save the XY, that's on down, and then while down, you XY of the frame equals XY of the mouse, and then release ends the function like that. So it becomes three options.
So it releases the actual like break. Okay.
So this is our URL entry, and that's the get method that comes with it. It's that simple. Just get in there, and that gives us all the text that belongs to the URL. Now, some people are going to want to. Type HTTP. I don't know any of those people, so we're going to have to check for that. But first, we're going to have to see if there's something there, because if it's empty, then nothing should. So if there's nothing in get, it gets none, and this won't run. So it's very simple. Let's do the thing. So then we just check if HTTP is there. If it's not there, we add it.
You should probably check for casing too.
So we're going to make a BS. Remember, I imported from BS4. I imported the class Beautiful Soup, and I decided to rename it BS because I'm not writing all that more than once. So we get BS.
Data.
That gets our data, and we want to use the HTML parser. I think it works like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a very standard use case of how request and Beautiful Soup work together, and very often these two modules work together like that. But we're not done. So I've done this before, as you can obviously tell, and there's a lot of issues that arise here that has nothing to do with Tkinter. So that's why I say that we're going to go a little bit faster ahead. So there's tremendous amount of text that's coming in, and we're going to parse through that text, and some elements of the text we want and some elements of the text we do not want. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something called a filter. So you notice that when I typed filter, it turned pink. That's because it's a built-in function that comes with Python, and it's one of those things that I don't think a lot of people know about, but it doesn't have a lot of use cases. But when it's good, it's perfect. So what filter does is it takes a container of information, a list or anything, a bunch of information, and it takes a function or a method, and then it runs every element of the container through the function or method, and that function has to return true or false based on whatever it's reading of that element. And then filter will give back the things that are true and not give back the things that are false. So it's an interesting way to kind of do this. So we go page text, this is what we're after. And the we're going to call it self-visible. Because that's the stuff we want, the stuff that we want to be visible, whatever. So this is a little kind of method that I found on Stack Overflow. I did not make this up. The rest of the app I made completely myself. And of course the page text. So let's just make that method right away. Self-def visible. We're going to need self. We're also going to need an element that filter gives us. So that's we'll call that E, and if E dot parent dot name. So if E belongs to in any way is something that has either a style bracket, a script. So I suppose that would be a script type. If it belongs to document of any kind, or if it belongs to head, or if it belongs to title.
Well, why are you doing the tuple as opposed to a list in this case?
Faster.
It's just faster.
Tuples are simply faster.
Okay.
Return false. Elif. And now we're going to start. This is a little use case for regex, and if you don't know what regex is, I envy you. You lucky person. Regex is, so back in the day when we needed to go through a piece of text and find a specific piece of information, because if you're looking for something like up here, you're looking for style or script or document, those are words that you can recognize. But what if you're looking for everything that might lie between D and T, no matter what word it is? It's very difficult to do. So here comes regex. It allows us to check for ranges in text and all that. And the people who made regex, because they were programmers of the old school, they decided, it doesn't have to be easy. It can be really, really hard. And so the old Python joke is, I have a problem and I've decided to use regex to solve my problem. I now have two problems. Regex is fairly complex, but once you get the hang of it and you start to understand a little bit of it, it's a lot of fun to use because other people are so perplexed by it. So there is that. Bragging rights. So here we're just looking for a type of element that is surrounded by these kind of brackets and has tun like that dot. That would be a star. Tun like this, and if you know if you know something about HTML, you'll recognize what that means. And then we have to stringify and encoding. So we take the element and encode it to UTF-8, obviously. UTF-8, which can be a problem when you're dealing with those kind of HTML stuff. And in this case, we also return false. In every other case, we return true. Now, note that I did not put else here. I could have done it. It would have done the same thing. But since return ends the function, I don't have to use else. It becomes redundant. This goes here and then it stops. This goes here and then it stops. If those two don't go, then and only then the true is ran. So that gives us our filter. Almost done. Now we have our page text and we want the page text to be a string. Yes, so then we're going to use join. So we remake our page text into a string that is joined by the elements of page text, which I'm not sure I have to make it a list, but I think I can try. I for I in page text. I think I could do without making the list, right? Pop in a while.
You need the list. You do need.
You do need it? All right. All right. Let's do it like that. I think I actually tried that before, and it didn't work, so you might be right.
You can also do it with any iterable.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a so page text is not a list. It's a beautiful soup object, but it will return. No, it's not. It's whatever comes out of filter. But to make it a string, we have to run it through a list comprehension. So those look like that. If that is weird to you, it's not. It's just a way to move a for loop into one line. It doesn't really have a specific function in. Like there's no place in Python you need it, but it does make things like this easier to type out. Now we have to put this information into our text field, but we disable the text field, and so it won't take any information. So what we're going to do is we're going to undisable it. So we take the text field, we go back to config, and we go state equal normal. And what we want to do here is the opposite when we are done. So we want to redisable it once we are done at passing in the relevant information. And that is the first thing we want to do that I actually forgot last time I did this. We want to actually delete what is already there because if not, it's just going to keep adding. So we're going to delete everything, right? Everything from the position 1.0, which is the first position, to the end, whatever that is. So that's how both insert and get and all that works like that in Tkinter. You use a float to put in position, and then you have certain keywords like end, or I don't think there's a beginning, but there's an end, because obviously you don't know what the end is. It could be anything. So let's go to text field again and insert. And this time we are going to insert at the end because it's empty, so it doesn't matter. And we're going to insert page text, and that's really it's that easy.
Yo, so quick question for you, Exo.
Yep.
So on line 40, you have soup equals BS data HTML parser, right?
Yep.
So soup is still an object, and when you do your page text, are you going to pass in soup.getText, or are you just going to pass in soup?
Yeah, you're right. I'm obviously missing a line. Thank you for catching that.
Anytime,
so obviously I'm reading up things that I wrote last week when I first wanted to do this tutorial. So obviously there is a find all here, and it actually looks like that despite what we did yesterday. So I don't know what went wrong then. So there it is, and that's a good find, because obviously without this line, we had a soup object, and then we had a page text object that was calling for a page text object that didn't exist.
Nope.
So we take the soup, we go find all, it takes all the text. So notice that we're getting text twice. That's because request isn't very good at getting text. So it gets all the text, I suppose. And then Beautiful Soup will parse it a little bit better with an HTML parser. And then we need to make our own parser, which is this filter, and then put it in. So it's a bit of a hassle. But, it's not that hard once you get into it. It's just a matter of trying and failing until you get it right. We worked on this yesterday, and we kind of made it work there too. So making that Pokemon web app. So
shout out to Kijun.
Yeah, shout out to Kijun for that. Let's run this. Let's see what happens. So if I type ebay.com and go, bam, I'm on eBay. ebay.com, all the text. We made a
ASCII. In ASCII.
In ASCII, all the text. Norwegian, it knows that I'm in Norway, so it sends a bunch of text. Let's try Amazon.com. Enter doesn't work, by the way. We should do something about that. And go. And we're waiting. Bam. Oops, we're sorry. We're having trouble doing what you just had to do. So Amazon doesn't like bots, and it thinks we're a bot. So it sends us here. Reddit does the same thing. Reddit.com. Let's go. Whoa there, partner. We're sorry, but you appear to be a bot. I'm not a bot. I'm a person. I'm using my new browser. What are you talking about? We've seen too many requests from you lately. I literally just gave you one.
Yeah.
I enforce a hard speed limit on requests. So that's kind of weird. Any other sites? Let's look at the Discord sites. Maybe they catch us. Yeah.
Pop-In gave you a snippet of code to use on the Discord.
Discord, Iris, Strife, Discord. Discordia is the Roman version of the Greek goddess Eris. Let's see what he has to say. Hold on. Let's shut this off. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, no, you're right. I should be able to do that. I'm thinking of why that didn't work. And I think that I originally made that line with an earlier version of page text and then remade House Soup. And so that should work. So let's do what Pop-In does. Because the more I think about that line, the more I'm thinking there's no need for this list comprehension there. Join does already take a container object. It already takes a sequence. So that should work equally. That's the power of working with other people. When they're looking at your code, they get to tell you when you're wrong. Pokemon.com. I'm assuming that's an URL. This site requires JavaScript and cookies to be enabled. Please change your browser settings. There's no browser. There's no settings button. I have to upgrade your browser, right? We have to do that. So anyway, that's a fun little experiment. I'm putting the code is actually already out on my GitHub in my project folder under other things. I got a little Tkinter browser there. So the things that can be done with it, if you want to expand upon this, is what I originally thought about is put all the text in one location, create a tab, and put all the URLs, all the hyperlinks in another location, another tab for all the images. So it kind of just separates everything out of a page, something like that. But it's just a fun little project. So let's go through the structure one more time. It starts here. Down here, right? If name equal main, that's how we start. That's the boilerplate convention for starting apps in Python. And then we initialize our root, which is the actual TK app. We create our app through our main class. We only have that class. In the other thing, I have many more classes. But they're all managed by main. So main becomes the class manager. It takes root as its master, and we pack it right away. And then we run root main loop. Nothing else. It just works by magic. Once app is bound to root, main loop will run it, because that's how they decided to make it. We add our go button. Once again, we got a command over here. And we got our frames, and then we separated making not frames but widgets to packing our widgets. And this is important to do because packing order matters, and it just makes more sense when you look at it to kind of pack it up like that. So as a last thing, let me also show you the other project that I've been working on. Let's see here, this one, that's the one. So here I'm importing from TTK, not TK, right? So the things that I have to import from regular Tkinter is Tkinter, which is the main, the root, right? Canvas and menu. And I also have to import text. But here I import from TTK. Actually, let's do that in our application. So TTK is something they added later because people were complaining that that Tkinter wouldn't take the native OS buttons when they changed it. Oh, it would always default to this classical style that kind of looks like this. So the buttons, they're, it doesn't look very good. With TK, it looks a little bit better. So now we're going to do what we should have done from the beginning. We're going to explicitly call everything that we're putting in because that's cleaner. And then we go from tkinter.ttk import, and then we get frame, and then we get entry, and we get button. And I don't think I used anything else. No, I used label. So we get frame, label, entry, and button. So now they're going to look a little bit different. So let's take a look at that. And as you can see, it's a little bit better, right? We got a nice go button there with a little blue line around it. We got a more responsive entry field. That's about it. but so yeah, people were complaining for a long time about two things about Tkinter. That's why you still hear people say that Tkinter isn't really viable anymore. Number one, that it doesn't look upgraded. Well, that was more or less fixed with TDK. And number two, that it doesn't have a canvas. Well, a canvas object has been added, and it's very usable. If you use the canvas of HTML5, it's very, very similar to that. So let's take a look at this at my bigger project, right? So I import node, sticker, canvas, top menu bar, enumerate. Let me show you how this program works and see if you can follow it, okay? Now that we know how it's set up. So once again, we start at the bottom. If name equal main, right? Root is TK. I set state zoomed because I wanted to start maximized. So that's a little TK trick you can use, so you don't have to click the maximize button every time. This is the type of app that we really want it maximized all the time, at least in the beginning. I initialized my main through root and root main loop. I did not pack it here. And why is that? Let me show you. I go up and let's see.
I bet you pre-pack.
No, I packed it up here, I think. Parent title. Oh, this is one thing that we actually didn't do. Let's go back to this is one thing that you mentioned, Seacart, that if you go here, it says TK up in the at the bottom there. Let's fix that. We go self.master.title and like that, I believe, and we just say browser. It's really that simple. Or is it title equal? No, there it is, browser. Bang. So it's actually, Tkinter has a lot of options, tremendous amount of options, and it can really do anything you want it to do, except look better than it looks.
I wanted it to bootstrap.
That's different. So anyway, so here I go. I add some sizes to the windows because I can do that. I add those sizes into the width and height. And there's no pack here. Yeah, here we go. Self.pack. I decide to pack it inside instead of doing it down here. That's perfectly viable. Just add a self.pack into the, so you can tell that I have an init function here, and then I created another init UI. That's because all of this used to be much, much, much longer. So what I did was I eventually moved things into other classes. Oh yeah, and and style allows us to theme things using different styles. There's alts, there's classic, there's a few more stuff like that. But I'm on a Windows machine, and it doesn't seem to do anything on Windows, so it doesn't matter.
Does your save and load functions?
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Eventually, I have to make the thing needs to save and load, obviously.
Right.
So here I have the menu bar, and that's the last thing that I moved in. So before here, there was a bunch of information about the menu bars. So let me show you. The way that I like to work is that I like to have a main file that's as clean as possible. I like to have a load file where I put all the functions and methods that are done. So here I created a enumerate function, which is for creating unique IDs. It uses a default dictionary. You can look at it yourself. So here we got node. That's the first class. Let's go down to the bottom here. This is the last thing I did. This is top menu bar. All this information was in the other init thing. So why? Just put it in a class. At one point, I needed a way to add new buttons because from every person that I add, Heidi or Donald, it creates a new button under the show menu that then allows me to pick which canvas I want to look at. I showed this earlier. Did you see it, C-Cart?
See what?
This app in action before.
No, I haven't actually.
Okay, I can show you.
Launch it.
So that's the top. That's the top menu bar. Let me just run you through. So I need to start canvases. So I created a list, canvasi, since canvas is not Greek, I suppose. It's Latin, so it's pluralist canvasi. I could be wrong about that. And there's where I store my canvases. So on new, we end up creating a new node. Let's see, yeah, on new, node. Node is a name type node. So that's where I plug in the name. And then I go to the node method and I create insert entry field called name, and I say OK cancel buttons, so that it adds OK cancel buttons, right? So if you go here, notice at the top, node was the first class that I made, and I decided to make it, that's top menu bar, it's different, node. This is a catch-all for all pop-up windows. So this one inherits from top level, which makes it a pop-up, right? I init a top level. Here I'm using parent, not master, because, and I add entries to an entry and a text. And I had to separate the fields because they use get methods a little bit differently. And then I just created methods here for making the buttons. So here we have insert entry field, and it does all the packing for us and stores the text in entries. And here we have an insert text field. So for some things, I needed 2 entry fields and a text field. For other things, I needed just 1 entry field. For other things, I might need 2 entry fields and no text fields, maybe 3 text, doesn't matter. Whatever I want, I can make it here. And then at the bottom, I just add OK cancel buttons. And the OK button, the cancel button will do not quit, because that quits the entire application, but destroy. And that will destroy just itself, the top menu. And then I had a problem because I needed to add callables. And you can't default a callable up here. Like if you say call equals self dot, it doesn't work because the argument section doesn't know what self is, because it takes self as an argument. So the runaround there is call none and then self save, because unless I specify otherwise, I want this to run its own method that's called self save. Let me repeat that. So the way that I wanted to do it was this. Like that, right? So unless you specify call, it goes to self-save. That doesn't work, right? Because of the self. It doesn't understand what self is, because self is created here and then applied to the rest of the method. So this is a Python pitfall that a lot of people fall into. Yeah?
Why don't you make self.save? Why don't make that save method a static method? Then you don't have to worry about it.
No, I could, but I want it to be a method as well. Or why make it a static method? This proved to be a perfectly fine. Not sure it would work as a static method, actually, since command only takes callables. But I might be wrong about that. But yeah, that might be something I could try out. What else do we have here? This is the update box. This is something I needed because I have to update things. So this is stuff that I added later to the whole thing. Anyway, that's not important. Let's go down. So the second one I made was text. So this is an interesting class, because this hacks Tkinter. See, text objects have a problem in Tkinter. Their size is determined by the number of it is not determined by pixels, as it kind of should be. It's determined by the number of letters that they contain. The problem is, if you change font, and you can change font, the letter size changes. Not all fonts are monospace. So then if I change font, the size of the text box would change. So this is a hack for that. I call it text2. I put it in a frame. So this is a frame, right? And then I call inside the frame, I create a text widget, which is the text. And then I create pass-through methods for all the text things I want to call. Insert, pass through the text widget. Delete, pass through text widget. Args quarks, args quarks. Config, pass through, args quarks. Get, return, because get is a return. But otherwise, pass through. I had to do the same with bind, and pack and grid propagates to false. And this is kind of the hack, and it overrides it. So essentially, I created a text object that works just like a text object, except that I can set the width and height by pixel instead of by button. And I found the method to do this online, obviously. And then we have our stickers. And if you haven't seen how this thing works, let me show you. So this is a application meant for writing, branching storylines. So we start here. There's nothing here. I start with an NPC. Let's call her Heidi. Okay, and now under show, Heidi has been added under info right there. So here I can add, and then we get this is our node, right? That pops up, and then I can add some tags in header if I want to, and this is where the actual text goes. All kinds of text, and then the footer, and I press OK, and I get this thing, which is the sticker, what I call the sticker, and it kind of moves around. I can put it anywhere I want. And if I want to edit things, I can go like that, and I can do this, test 1. Not sure this is going to work because I might be having an issue. But if I go text 1 up there, I get a line, and it draws out. So this is essentially a canvas. Right? Create another one. Let's call it test. Actually, let's call it test 1 again. So test 1, and it also makes a line. So I can make my dot like, oh yeah. So this is the dragging thing. Right, I just grab the canvas and I drag around, and it kind of moves. So you notice the thing is getting fucked up a little bit. That's fine. I don't care, because this is not a GUI application meant for users. This is a workflow application, so it can be dirty, right? If I do something wrong, or the person working on it does something wrong and it works, just don't do that, right? Because this is meant to be used in a singular way to improve workflow, and only to improve workflow. So I can add another one. Let's put test 2 there. And the thing that might not work is changing those entry fields, adding test 2. No. So I need to add a better system for updating the lines when I update. And I kind of had it, but then I had to add a system to delete them, and I think I made a mistake somewhere. But that's how it goes. And oh yeah, and last thing, if I add I showed this before, but if I add another NPC, and I tend to call them Donald and Heidi for some reason, I get the line here, and then of course I'm on Donald. I can go back to Heidi, and I go back to Donald like that. So that's why I needed the top menu to be able to make buttons, because for every name I add here, I can add Roger. Obviously, it makes the button down there, and then I can switch between them. So it's not a finished product, but it gives you an idea of how to set up a bigger Tkinter application. So that's our sticker. It's got our make message box. This is all the edit stuff. This is the old way I used to edit, and here's the new way. So this is something that I'm in the middle of, as you can tell. And here we got all the gets. You get from 1.0, you end to end -1C. So it's a way to, I think you don't get the last line or something like that. Like
you leave a little bit off the top.
Yeah, no, there's always a trailing space or something that you can cut, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then we got our rectangles that has to be extrapolated for placements and the dragging. And this is all like lines and coordinates and stuff like that, and dots that need to be updated. This is obviously not happening. And some get center helping methods, and then we have our canvases. So all the canvases are done like this, and here we got the binding. So when I create self-bind, I can do that on any widget, but I'm doing this on canvas right now. And then I bind button press 1 to SMark. So SMark is something that comes with Tkinter and allows dragging. So this means section mark. So it marks the section that I press the button for. V1 motion runs sdrag, which will then drag from SMark. and button 3 is something else. This is what I use to insert node. So these two functions alone are things that the canvas object comes with, that allows us to drag the canvas object around easier, so we don't have to do it ourselves, which is really cool. So that's how it works. Bind and button, all that works for every widget. While smark and sdrag is unique to canvas. And so we bound our button 3, which is our right mouse button, to insert node. So whenever I want to insert node in the canvas, you didn't see that. Obviously, I clicked the right button. Just to make it easy, right? So we have our insert fields, header, body, footer. Then we do some. This is for saving the info, and I try to make the info a little bit easier to drag. Eventually, I'll save it in a JSON file, and it should. When I plug the JSON file with all the conversations and all the lines and everything, eventually into the game, it should just immediately work. The correct NPC should now save the correct things and have the correct responses, everything. But I haven't made the game yet. I've just made this. So that's something, once I get there. And here's the drawing of the lines and mixing. So obviously, draw line is not being called or not being called correctly when I edit one of the boxes. That's kind of the problem that's going on. But the canvas is what makes the boxes, and canvas is then the parent or the master in our case of the boxes. So I can activate functions in the canvas from the individual box by calling parent. So Tkinter is really nice that way because it works very well with OOP. Let me show you an example of that. So this is a sticker. This is the sticker that you see with the two red dots next to it, right? So then if I want to make a message box, I get the box. Here I'm using text 2, not the regular text, so that I can decide my own widths and heights. That's very important. Let's see here. Node self parent. So I'm making another node in the parent. So I'm going up to the canvas and telling the canvas make another node in your canvas. So that's one way of doing it. And here as well, when I'm dragging, I need to move. So I move through the parent, and I move the self name. The canvas has a function that allows you to move by ID. So the name is the ID, and then it just takes 2 new positions, and you're moving that ID around that canvas for those positions. So it's actually, once you get into it, it's very, very straightforward, very, very easy to get if you don't run into any pitfalls. And as we showed you earlier, we did run into a pitfall. We ended up with a problem that we couldn't correct. But there is a solution out there. I just can't quite remember what it is. Okay, that's it. I think I've talked enough. My voice is tired. I don't want this to be too long. I'm going to post a link. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to post. You know what? I'm going to do. I do the whole thing here. So here we are. Let's go to github.com.
I'm going to head out, bro.
Yeah. See you, dude.
Thanks for the tutorial.
Yep, no problem. So here's projects. Go to other scripts, and I've got my Tkinter browser right there. We got load, main, and test. So if I post that, there's the link to the Tkinter browser that we just made. That gives you kind of everything you need to know. And that is that. I'm ending the thing. No problem. Feel free to comment. I have a YouTube account, but I haven't put up anything. I'm planning a section of tutorials on YouTube. So when that happens, I'll certainly place it around. Did you come from Reddit, or are you a mainstay of this server? All right. Okay. Well, then I'm always around on the server. So when I start my YouTube tutorial, I'm gonna I'll definitely post it here. So you'll know. Yeah, you sent me a friend request, then that guarantees that I will send it to you. No problem. Though I have to, I'm being very strict with myself. I have to finish the game that I'm working on first, and then I'm going to start on the tutorial. So I can't really promise anything. And I accepted your friend request. I use script, which is the one you need to run things in Atom. And I use, I don't, idle. Yeah, you're always on idle. Dude, come on. And let's see, I don't need anything for GitHub. Atom does all that for you. Atom was made by GitHub, I believe. And so all the little things in the gutter that tells you that you need to update GitHub and what state the things are, that comes with Atom. Yeah, idle. So I use script and I use one more. I think it's Python. Let me take a look at that. It's one of these Python things. Packages, edit, and view. Is that it? Find. Settings. There we go. Packages.